Vince McMahon came to me, of course, the chairman of WWE. He came to me and he said, "How do you feel about bringing Hulk Hogan back?"
There are moments in life when even the strongest among us are brought to their knees, not by pain, but by love, gratitude, and loss. That's exactly what happened when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson paid tribute to his childhood hero, Hulk Hogan. In a raw, emotional video that stunned millions, the usually unshakable superstar broke down in tears, offering a farewell that was as deeply personal as it was universally moving. This wasn't Dwayne Johnson, the Hollywood megastar, speaking. This was Dwee, the wide-eyed kid from Hawaii, who once stood in awe of a larger-than-life hero. And now that kid was saying goodbye, not just for himself, but for a world that grew up believing in Hulkamania. When a hero becomes a legend. The story of Hulkamania and The Rock's farewell. What happens when the childhood hero who ignited your dreams later becomes your fiercest rival and ultimately your lifelong friend? How do you find the words when the man who inspired you to dream bigger than you ever imagined suddenly disappears from the world in a moment that shakes the very foundation of wrestling and the hearts of millions? That man was Terry Blee, known to the world as Hulk Hogan, the living, breathing symbol of Hulkamania. For decades, Hogan was the bright, unstoppable force that transformed wrestling from a niche sport to a global cultural phenomenon. When news broke of his passing, the wrestling universe was stunned. Yet, among the countless voices mourning this icon, one stood out. A voice steeped in raw emotion and deep personal connection. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson himself, a titan in the world of sports entertainment, stepped forward not just as a fellow legend, but as a fan, a student, a brother in arms. The words he spoke through tears and trembling gratitude resonated far beyond the wrestling ring, touching millions worldwide. The seed of inspiration, a childhood memory that changed Eve, writhing. To understand the weight of The Rock's tribute, we have to go back to 1984. A 12-year-old Dwayne Johnson was sitting in the stands of Madison Square Garden, eyes wide with awe, heart pounding, as Hulk Hogan battled it out in the ring. For that young boy, the wrestling ring wasn't just a place of combat. It was a stage where heroes were made, where dreams felt within reach. After the match, Hogan walked past the young fan and did something small but monumental, a gesture that would forever change the course of Dwayne's life. He handed the boy his iconic red Hulkster headband. To most, it might have seemed a simple token, but to Dwayne, it was a symbol of hope, of possibility. This moment of kindness didn't end there. Hogan invited Dwayne backstage, a once-in-a-lifetime chance for a kid who idolized him. And true to his word, weeks later, Hogan mailed him a brand new Hulkster headband. These gestures planted the seeds of a lifelong bond and laid the foundation for a story that would intertwine their lives and careers in ways no one could have predicted. From student to rival. WrestleMania 18, icon versus icon. Fast forward to 2002. The stage was WrestleMania 18, a night built around the clash of two wrestling legends, Hulk Hogan and The Rock. It was built as icon versus icon, a match that promised not just technical skill, but emotional gravity. The Rock later recalled the night in his tribute, highlighting that while he won the match, it was Hogan who truly captured the crowd's heart. The arena was famously split, with cheers erupting for both men. But when Hogan kicked out of the rock bottom, a moment etched in wrestling history, the crowd exploded in a collective roar. It was a testament to Hogan's magnetic presence, a reminder of why he was the cornerstone of an era. For The Rock, that night wasn't about victory. It was about honoring the man who had opened the door for him and countless others, about paying tribute to the legend who built the house they all stepped into. The battle was emotional, symbolic, a passing of the torch wrapped in respect and admire. Rock's tribute video first appeared online. It quickly became clear that this was no ordinary farewell. It was raw, unfiltered, and deeply human. A moment that pierced through the noise and resonated with millions. The usual larger-than-life persona that Dwayne Johnson carries was stripped away, revealing a man who was simply a boy. Once again, overwhelmed with grief and gratitude, his voice cracked with emotion as he spoke directly to the man who had shaped his life and career. You may have passed the torch to me that night, brother, but let's make one thing clear. You built the house. You sold the tickets. You filled the arenas. You're the reason people believed in this business in the first place. Those words, simple yet profoundly powerful, rippled across social media platforms and wrestling communities around the world. The phrase, "Thank you for the house, brother," quickly became more than just a quote. It became a mantra, a symbol of respect and love that captured decades of wrestling history and personal admiration in just a few heartfelt syllables. The impact? How The Rock's tribute reshaped the farewell. Shared widely on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, the tribute video sparked an outpouring of emotions. What made it so striking was The Rock's vulnerability, a side rarely glimpsed beneath the confident, electrifying superstar image. For fans who had admired him for years, this was a powerful reminder that behind the fame and spectacle, Dwayne Johnson was still that wide-eyed kid from Hawaii who once looked up at Hulk Hogan as a real-life hero. Comments flooded in from all walks of life, wrestling fans, fellow wrestlers, and celebrities alike, with many expressing how deeply moved they were. Tweets like, "This broke me. You can feel the pain in his voice," and us, "I've never seen The Rock this honest before," revealed the impact of his words. The heartfelt tribute wasn't just a goodbye. It was a collective moment of mourning and celebration, bridging generations and reminding the world what true legacy means. In that vulnerable expression of gratitude and sorrow, The Rock did more than honor Hulk Hogan. He gave everyone permission to feel, to grieve, and to remember the man who built the very foundation of the business they all loved. A global outpouring of respect. Wrestling legends and beyond The Rock's tribute sparked a global outpouring of grief and respect that transcended wrestling. Fellow legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin tweeted, "He was the spark that lit the fire for many of us. Much love and respect. Rest easy, brother." John Cena, who had already spoken at Hogan's memorial, added simply, "That came from the soul. We owe him everything." Triple H, now a key WWE executive, praised The Rock's message as capturing the very soul of the wrestling industry. Icons from Ric Flair to Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels to Chris Jericho, and even AEW stars like Jericho posted their reflections on Hogan's profound influence. The ripple effect, went far beyond wrestling. Movie stars, athletes, musicians, and politicians weighed in. Mark Wahlberg called it, "How You Honor a Hero Beautifully." NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal recalled Hogan as every kid's favorite, someone who made him want to bodies slam the world. UFC President Dana White credited Hogan with laying the blueprint for turning fighters into global personalities. Hip-hop artists like Snoop Dogg paid homage, noting Hogan's unique style and larger-than-all-life persona. Even late-night hosts Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert spotlighted the tribute, remarking on how even the toughest men grieve openly when a legend is lost. Worldwide mourning, how fans across the globe said goodbye. The mourning wasn't confined to the United States. Fans from India, Brazil, the UK, and Canada, Nigeria, and Japan held vigils and watch parties. In Tokyo, fans gathered outside Corazon Hall, candles flickering as Hogan's entrance music played with The Rock's tribute projected on a giant screen. At London's O2 Arena, signs reading, "Heroes live forever." And from Hulkamania to Dwayne, "Thank you both," were hoisted high. In Mexico City, fans painted murals capturing Hogan's iconic image alongside quotes from The Rock's tribute. From Australian beach memorials to New York street parades, it became clear this was more than a wrestling loss. It was the closing chapter of an era that had shaped generations. Hogan wasn't just a wrestling star, he was a cultural icon whose influence touched childhoods, homes, and hearts worldwide. A farewell that wasn't planned, but perfectly timed. What made The Rock's tribute to Hulk Hogan so unforgettable wasn't grand production or polished delivery. It was the honesty. This wasn't the global icon, Dwayne Johnson, giving a carefully written speech. It was a son of the wrestling business, a once wide-eyed kid named Dwee saying goodbye to his childhood hero. His voice cracked, his eyes welled, and in those raw emotional pauses, the world felt the weight of real loss. This wasn't The Rock talking to the world. This was Dwayne saying goodbye to his hero, one fan wrote. And they were right. For anyone who had ever believed in Hulkamania, this farewell echoed something deeply personal. It wasn't just The Rock's goodbye. It became ours. Whether you grew up screaming in the stands or watching from the glow of a living room TV, Hogan meant something. And in that unscripted moment, The Rock gave everyone permission to feel it, to grieve, to remember, and to say thank you. It was never meant to be a viral moment, but because it was real, because it came from love, it became something bigger. A final, perfect goodbye that felt like it belonged to all of us. Beyond Tanand, Ring, lessons from Hulkamania and The Rock's tribute. But this tribute is about so much more than just wrestling. It reminds us that behind every larger-than-life persona, there are real people with real stories, struggles, and emotions. Hulk Hogan was more than a wrestling icon. He was a symbol of hope and inspiration for countless dreamers. And The Rock's heartfelt words showed how that inspiration flows, passing from one generation to the next, shaping not just careers, but the very hearts and dreams of those who follow. In a world that often values spectacle over sincerity, The Rock's tribute stands as a powerful lesson in humility and gratitude. It teaches us that no matter how bright the spotlight, the moments that truly resonate come from honesty and vulnerability. It's a reminder that behind the fame and flash, there's brotherhood, a bond forged through respect, shared history, and genuine care. This farewell, unplanned yet perfectly timed, showed the world that sometimes the greatest strength lies in allowing yourself to be seen, to grieve openly, and to say thank you. In honoring Hulk Hogan, The Rock didn't just say goodbye to a legend. He celebrated the enduring power of human connection, a moment that transcended wrestling. When The Rock spoke that day, millions across the globe felt something rare and profound. A moment suspended in time where the usual spectacle of wrestling gave way to raw, genuine human emotion. This was not about championship titles, sold-out arenas, or the roar of the crowd demanding another iconic catchphrase. No. This was about the very soul of professional wrestling and the man who had ignited that soul for so many. It was about Hulk Hogan, a figure larger than life, a beacon of inspiration whose impact rippled far beyond the squared circle. Dwayne Johnson, known worldwide as The Rock, was stripped of his usual bravado and charisma on that stage. Instead, he was a boy again, a wide-eyed child who first saw Hulk Hogan tearing the house down on a Saturday night's main event, broadcast decades ago. That young boy, brimming with awe in dreams, had grown into one of the biggest global superstars wrestling and Hollywood had ever seen. But in that vulnerable moment of tribute, all the fame and fortune melted away, revealing the humble heart of a fan saying goodbye to his hero. The first meeting from little Dwee to The Rock. The Rock shared a memory not often told, one that painted Hogan not as a distant icon, but as a genuinely kind and caring human being. He recalled meeting Hulk Hogan for the very first time backstage, not as The Rock, the wrestling meester, but as little Dwee, the son of Rocky Johnson. Nervous, shy, and overwhelmed, Dwee stood in the shadows of the locker room, starstruck beyond measure, but Hogan didn't brush him off or treat him like just another fan. Instead, Hogan took the time to shake his hand, offer advice, encouragement, and most importantly, to treat him like he mattered. The generosity Hogan showed, The Rock said, with his voice breaking, was rare in this business, especially back then. It was a world often marked by ego and competition. But Hogan's kindness was genuine, laying the groundwork for a bond that would define both their careers. It was the kind of moment that doesn't make headlines, but makes all the difference. WrestleMania X8, when icons collide. Years later, that relationship reached a crescendo in one of wrestling's most memorable encounters, WrestleMania X8. The Rock and Hogan stood across the ring as icons from different eras, a symbol of past and present colliding. The match itself was electric, a physical spectacle with high drama, memorable spots, and moments that fans still talk about today. But beyond the athleticism and theatrics, it was the emotional undertone that made it legendary. The crowd was famously divided, half chanting for The Rock, the other half erupting for Hogan, creating a charged atmosphere rarely seen in sports entertainment. The iconic moment when Hogan kicked out of the rock bottom wasn't scripted just for effect. It was a surge of raw emotion that shook the stadium. The fans weren't cheering for just a wrestler that night. They were honoring a man who had inspired countless others to dream big. For The Rock, the match was never just about winning. "I didn't just do the job," he explained in his tribute. He created moments. He gave us memories. He gave me belief. The passing of the torch wasn't merely symbolic. It was a recognition of the foundation Hogan built for those who followed. Beyond the spotlight, the man behind the legend. What set The Rock's tribute apart was its deeply personal nature. Beneath the muscles, the headbands, and the iconic "What you gonna do, brother?" catchphrase, Hogan was revealed as a man who touched feel, lives in real ways. The Rock recounted stories of Hogan reaching out during some of the most difficult times in his life. Times when the cameras were off and the spotlight was far away. When The Rock's mother was involved in a serious car accident, Hogan sent messages of support and encouragement. Not for the public eye, but private, like a brother checking in on family. He never needed the spotlight to show he cared, Johnson said softly. That's the Hogan I want the world to remember. This wasn't just a performer saying a scripted line or giving a polished speech. It was a heartfelt acknowledgement of a man who shaped lives through kindness and support, often invisible to the public but unforgettable to those who knew him best. The viral outpouring, a global wave of grief and gratitude. The Rock's tribute video wasn't planned to go viral. It wasn't filled with flashy edits or dramatic crescendos. It was raw, unfiltered, and deeply human. Exactly why it resonated so profoundly. As soon as it hit the internet, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Across continents, wrestling fans and casual viewers alike shared clips, quotes, and tears. Social media lit up with side-by-side images of Hogan and The Rock from decades past, showing how their relationship quietly endured and evolved. Fans tweeted sentiments like, "I've watched this video 5 times and still cry every single time." And this wasn't just a tribute, it was history being honored. Even those with little interest in wrestling felt the impact. The Rock's vulnerability, that of one of the world's most successful entertainers, breaking down over a mentor, reminded everyone that grief and gratitude are universal languages. It showed that behind the larger-than-life personas are real people who love, lose, and remember. Fellow legends respond. A brotherhood honored when The Rock's tribute video to Hulk Hogan made waves across the internet. It wasn't just fans who felt moved. Wrestling's greatest legends also stepped forward to honor a man who had shaped their world. The response was heartfelt, sincere, and a testament to the brotherhood that wrestling, for all its theatrics, truly fosters behind the scenes. Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the most iconic figures in wrestling history himself, posted a poignant black-and-white photo of Hogan. The image captured 2 generations of wrestling royalty side by side, and Austin's caption said it all. "We built the house. He laid the foundation." Those words carried more weight than any promo ever could. They reminded everyone that every superstar who followed owed a debt to Hogan, who blazed a trail when wrestling was still finding its way into mainstream culture. John Cena, another legend who had spoken with raw emotion during Hogan's memorial, shared a tweet that echoed the sentiment. Hulk Hogan gave us all a reason to believe in larger-than-life heroes. He was mine, and I know he was The Rock's too. For Cena, Hogan wasn't just a figure on television. He was a beacon of hope and strength in a world where those larger-than-life heroes inspired millions to dream bigger. Then there was Triple H, the former wrestling superstar turned WWE executive, who announced a tribute that would endure beyond speeches and social media posts. Hogan's image, he revealed, would be permanently enshrined at the WWE Performance Center, the heart of WWE's future talent development. Not just in the Hall of Fame, but at the very entrance where young wrestlers walk in every day. Hogan would be the first face they see, because without him there is no path to follow. Triple H, in his safety, said the honor speaks volumes about Hogan's lasting influence, reminding each newcomer of the giant footsteps they are stepping into. Worldwide tributes, a legend without borders. The outpouring of respect was not limited to WWE or even the United States. Wrestling promotions around the world, from Mexico's ATAA to Japan's NJPW, expressed their grief and gratitude. The international wrestling community, though diverse and spread across continents and cultures, came together in unified mourning. Ric Flair, wrestling's nature boy and a legend in his own right, appeared visibly emotional during a podcast when asked about Hogan's passing. His simple words, "I've lost a brother," carried the weight of decades of friendship, rivalry, and mutual respect. In wrestling, where competition can be fierce and egos larger than life, those words revealed the deep human bonds formed behind the scenes. This global outpouring demonstrated that Hulk Hogan was much more than a performer. He was a cultural icon who transcended borders, languages, and styles. His influence was universal, touching lives not just as a wrestler, but as an emblem of hope, strength, and larger-than-life charisma. The Rock's tribute captured this duality, the personal and the universal, reminding us all that even titans once stood on the shoulders of heroes. And when those heroes pass, the grief is heavy. But so too is the gratitude for the legacy they leave behind, a legacy beyond numbers. Reflecting on his relationship with Hogan, The Rock shared a poignant truth. "Hogan made me feel like I belong." This simple statement speaks volumes, especially when you consider the world of professional wrestling. In a culture obsessed with metrics, championship titles held, tickets sold, box office numbers, The Rock's words refocus the conversation on something deeper. Legacy, he suggested, isn't about statistics or records. It's about the impact you have on people's lives. It's about the dreams you inspire, the hope you give to someone who feels invisible, and the courage you instill in those who watch from the sidelines. Hogan wasn't just a champion inside the squared circle. He was a champion of hearts, a man who made countless fans and fellow wrestlers feel seen, heard, and valued. For the next generation of icons, Hogan's legacy is even more tangible. He didn't just entertain, he opened doors. He created opportunities for others to step forward, to carry the torch, and to keep the spirit of wrestling alive and vibrant. His influence is not confined to history books or highlight reels. It lives on in every wrestler who walks through the doors he helped open, and in every fan who ever believed in the impossible. The final bell, more than a farewell. As the world continues to mourn and celebrate Hulk Hogan's life, The Rock's tribute remains one of the most heartfelt farewells in professional wrestling history. There were no pyrotechnics or grandiose gestures, no rehearsed applause or flashy production. Instead, there was something far more powerful: love, reverence, and unfiltered emotion. When a hero passes, they leave behind a void, a space that feels empty and impossible to fill. but through the words of those who loved and respected them, that void can transform. It becomes a space filled with memory, meaning, and enduring respect. Hogan's greatest match, as The Rock so movingly conveyed, wasn't inside the ropes of the ring. It was the match he fought every day to win the hearts of millions, to be more than a performer, but a symbol of strength, hope, and inspiration. Thanks to The Rock's powerful farewell, that match continues. It echoes in the legacy of every life Hogan touched, every dream he sparked, and every soul he lifted. This tribute, raw and sincere, did more than say goodbye. It ensured that Hogan's spirit lives on, not just